Guiding 5 Southern Men to Safety After Night by S.C. Turnbo. The following story was given me by Mr. Isaac Fleetwood, an early pioneer of southern Missouri, who, when I interviewed him, lived 5 miles west of Clarksville, Indian Territory. At the time of the breaking out of the war, Mr. Fleetwood was living with his uncle Isaac Fleetwood 4 miles above Old Rock Bridge on Bryant's Fork in Douglas County, Missouri. He was a Union man and enlisted in the Federal Army. He said, "But a few months before I was sworn into service, I piloted 5 Southern men to where they were enabled to find their way to safety. I did what I agreed to do and never regretted it. How it has come about for me to lead these men to where they could find a more secure place to prolong their lives was in this way. One night in the early part of the war, a party of men rode up to the yard gate at my Uncle Isaac Fleetwood's and hallooed hello. As in war times, it was dangerous to go out of the house to a man after night unless you knew he was a friend, but Uncle went to the door and asked what was wanted. They said that they were bewildered and that they were strangers in that part of Missouri, and it was dark and they could not find their way. Uncle now went out to the gate where the men were and talked with them. They informed my uncle that they were Southern men and lived in Greene County, part of which resided in Springfield. They said that they were trying to make their way to the Confederate lines. At this, my uncle asked their names and they told him. I cannot call to mind now all of their names, but 2 of them were John Price and Billy Kelby. When they told my uncle their names, he seemed to have much confidence in them, for he knew them from character. There were 5 of them, and they told my uncle that they wanted to go south for protection and was lost and were afraid to venture any further without a guide. They said that they did not know who to trust, but decided it was more prudent to risk someone to pilot them a few miles if they could get to find anyone who would be willing to do so, for without a guide that they might fall into the hands of the enemy. At that time, Captain Billy Rutherford's company, afterward commanded by William Pyland, was camped on Bryant's Spring Creek near Billy James's farm. After my uncle had conversed with them a while, and being satisfied that they were all honest and upright men, he asked me if I would be willing to take them to Brixey's Creek, which runs into Bryant's Fork below the village of New Rockbridge. Now this stream was named for Croft Brixey, an old settler who lived on it many years previous to this. I informed my uncle I was willing to go with the men and show them the way to the watercourse he had designated, and my uncle says, "Now men, you must not reveal this to no one while the war lasts. If you do, and it gets into the ears of certain parties in this locality, they will kill both my nephew and myself." And all 5 of the men gave their promise of good faith, and I caught my horse, and after putting a saddle on him, I mounted him and told the men I was ready, and we started. The night was dark, the road narrow and rough, but I was well acquainted with the country and did not stand in dread of losing my way. I and those Southern fellows rode in the darkness and silence. I was watchful and careful to guide the men to safety from their enemy. It was late in the night when they came to my uncle's house, and when we reached the point on Brixey's Creek where I was to take them, the chickens were crowing for day. I knew very well that I must not be caught out from home, especially in night time, and it was dangerous to be out from home in daytime, too, unless I could render a proper excuse. After we had stopped, I gave them directions how to find the way to the outside of their own lines, and wishing them a safe journey, I bid them adieu and reined my horse around and to return back home, when they requested me to wait a few minutes. I did not know what they meant, but I halted my horse and waited, and soon I heard the jingle of money, and one of the men handed me 3 silver dollars, which they said was a small recompense for my trouble, and they thanked me, and we separated. I got back home without meeting anyone, and I and my uncle did not mention this until after the close of the war, and as I said a while ago, I was never a bit sorry that I aided these men to get to their friends. I never heard of them any more till several years after those angry times when I met Mr. Price, and we enjoyed a prolonged talk together about the war times, and we did not forget to mention that long, rough ride that night to Brixey's Creek.